Well, I'm filming at around 9/11 on September 11th, 2025, and yeah, if you've been watching the news at all, there's been some events that have happened recently, and wanted to share a story with you to kind of put things in perspective. And I could share, probably hundreds of stories that will share the same message, but I want to share this one because I think it's something that people don't talk about enough and don't really understand. Anyway, right now it's about, 65, 70 degrees. The sun is really bright. I didn't bring my hat out. I'm probably gonna get sunburned. I just saw a new baby lamb over there. Didn't want to bother mama too much. Looks like Lamb was getting her rest. But the story goes something like this, right? So back in the 1840s, there was a man. He was very well respected within his own community. They built a city in Illinois, and because of things that had happened in the past, one of the first things they did was they got permission to have a standing army. And so many of the men in this community, they joined that army, and they trained regularly, and they elected someone to be their general, and this man was chosen to be the general. So this army at the time in the United States was probably the largest standing army. If you don't know your history, back in this period of time in the United States history, they didn't keep an army, at least one of any significant size, for the federal government. And the states would rely on the militia. If they needed some military action done, they would call up the militia. And indeed, not too many years before this event, the Missouri State Militia was summoned and mustered to put down rioting and mobs and all that kind of stuff. And then after the Missouri militia was summoned and activated, the governor said, no, you got it all wrong. You were supposed to be fighting on the side of the rioters and mobsters who are murdering people and raping them and shooting their children in the face and laughing about it. So he sat down another general, and there's a little bit of a war, right? And to end the war, this man volunteered to negotiate a truce between the two sides, and came under the white flag of truce. And so they kidnapped him and they imprisoned him, and they were going to put him on trial for violating some military code that he was not a part of, and they were going to execute him in the morning. But thankfully, one of the officers stood up and said, if you do that, I'm gonna put you on trial for murder, because this man is not part of the military. He never was, and what you're doing is wrong. It's just cold-blooded murder. And so instead of murdering him, they put him in jail throughout the winter while they chased out all of his group. Chased him out on the icy plains. And they ended up in Illinois in a swamp. And then they let him go, him and his friends. And so he left, and he went to Illinois, and together they built a city. And as I said, one of the first order of business was to raise a military. And he was appointed the general, right? Now, the mayor of the city was a bad dude. He was doing some really bad stuff, and so he got caught. And they kicked him out. Some of my sheep had crossed the wire. I'll see if they'll go back. No, I'm going to stay in the shade here, tell the story. So they were looking for a new mayor, and they decided to elect this man mayor. So he became mayor. And as often happens in a prelude to violence, a group of people set up a printing shop in this town, and they started publishing lies about this man and his followers and his friends. And not wanting to repeat what happened in Missouri with all the violence, the city council voted to dismantle the printing press, to shut it down. Now, at the time in history, and you can read letters from these people back and forth, when something wasn't really legal, or when it was questionable, they wouldn't do an official act they would just have masked men take care of the problem through mob action. And so despite plenty of precedent of government officials and people raising mobs to shut down printing presses, I think they even killed a few people who are publishing material they don't like, right? So you said something I don't like, therefore I kill you and I destroy your stuff. And so despite making an official act saying, hey, these words are violent words, they're going to incite people to violence and people are going to get hurt, so we're going to shut it down legally according to the law. And so they did. They shut down the printing press. Nobody was hurt. Now, this was used as a pretext to try to put this man in prison. They wanted to put him on trial for disturbing the peace. So following the orders of the town council and putting the press down that was publishing lies, inciting people to violence, was disturbing the peace, because apparently somebody raised their voice while they put the printing press down, right? So anyway, so they're going to put him on a trial for that. And this man was fairly insightful into people's intentions, and he had a penchant for being able to understand men's hearts. And he was known to associate with beings of supreme intellect and insight. That's how they crossed. I'll put up a wire there, a post or something. And so he was aware that if he went to this trial, that they were most likely going to kill him. Not because he was guilty of anything, but specifically because he wasn't. So they were going to use a mob to kill him. And so at first he said, no, I'm not going. And some men threatened the entire community, said, if you don't go to this trial, we're just going to burn the whole town down. And other men threatened some other things. Behind the scenes, what was really happening was this. This man was running for president, and he was pretty popular. And the other people who were running for president realized that if this man didn't win this presidential election, he was certainly going to win the next one in 4 years. His platform was popular. People agreed with him. They liked what he said about different things. One of the things he said was that we probably shouldn't be using prisons. If somebody's guilty of a crime, they should repay the person they offended. And if they can't repay, then they should be put to work, learning a trade, learning to read and write, so that they can repay the person that they damaged. And rather than put people in prisons, put them in work camps and make sure that there's tutors there to teach them how to read and write, and get an actual trade that they can make money at so they don't have to be criminals. And another controversial idea he had at the time was, slavery was a big issue in America. And he was one of the weird people. He said, hey, I have an idea. Let's not kill anyone over slavery. Instead, let's buy the slaves at market price from the slave owners, and let's free them. And let's give them rights, the same as any other American. And maybe, they might need some help learning to read and write. And maybe they want to set up their own communities, let them set up their own communities, whatever they wanted to do, right? So the idea was let's avoid the Civil War with a one-time payment. That way nobody can complain. And let's see, what was another idea he had? I think one of the ideas that he had was, hey, maybe we shouldn't be killing people because they have a different religion than us. There was Catholics coming in the country at the time, and they were getting beat up and assaulted because they were Catholic, and some people were saying things about the Catholic, and so there's violence going on that way too, right? So fairly popular presidential campaign. And so these people that saw that this man was popular and could probably get elected president in a year's time, if not 4 years' time, they hatched a plot to murder him with the specific intention of not just ending his life, but trying to destroy the movement that he started. So now this man, he was fleeing to go hide, like he's done many times, hiding from people that are trying to murder him. And this time he says, you know what, I got to go back. I'm going to go like a lamb to the slaughter. And so him and his friends, they went up to the jail, turned themselves in so they can be put on trial. And within a few days, a mob came and murdered him. His brother shot one of his friends. Now here's kind of the harrowing part, is that he jumped out of the window. He fell out of the window, jumped out of the window, it doesn't matter, second floor. And he was still alive. And so they propped him up against the well in the courtyard there. And it was a Baptist minister that ordered the men to shoot him. So if you wonder why we don't get along too well with Protestants and evangelicals, it's because they were literally behind the murder of one of the most influential persons in our movement, right? So anyway, they murdered him. And now you might think a couple things could have happened. Having one of the largest standing armies in the United States at the time, it would have been very easy for this man to lead his army. He could have very easily put down the mobs, gone to their hometowns. He knew where they were. He knew who they were. He could have gone into their homes and taken them either captive, or he could have just shot them on the spot. He probably could have taken Illinois, just gone to the Capitol and taken it over. And because he was so popular and he was well liked, not just by members of his movement, but also by other people, there's a good chance he probably could have taken the entire United States, right? It's a possibility, right? We've seen in history things like this happen. So we could be living under the dictatorial autocracy of this man. But he chose not to do things that way. He chose instead to give his own life so that there would not be war and there would not be strife. His successor came into town immediately when he heard the news. At first, he didn't believe the news when he heard it. He thought it was another one of these lies that they spread about him. But when it was confirmed to him, he returned to town, and raising 2 pistols high in the air, he said, anybody that tries to molest our people, I'll shoot him dead. So he was not exactly a peaceful man, but I think it was the next day he came out and he says, nope, we're going to choose peace. Everybody pack your bags, we're leaving. We are going out to the west, to the worst spot of ground that we can find, the Great Salt Lake, and we are going to colonize, and we're going to build an empire out there, and we're going to make a safe refuge for people to come that want to flee from all the violence that's going to happen on the east. That's what they did. And that's my ancestors' history. They're intertwined with these people. My ancestor, he was persecuted, but in a different way. So once he joined that religion, people stopped doing business with him. And finding it was impossible to make money or do any business, he packed his bags and he went to join up with the rest of the saints. And then when he arrived in Nauvoo, Brigham Young saw him and basically said, oh, good, your bags are already packed, let's go. And in the Great Salt Lake, he built mills. He knew how to do stonework and build mills, and so they could grind the wheat into flour. And you'd think that the guy that was grinding wheat into flour would end up wealthy, but no, he would basically give away all his profits every year. His wife commented one year that they had a big storehouse full of flour, and she was like, we don't really have to worry about food ever again. But as winter wore on, that flour would disappear in the night. And by the time it was over, they barely had enough food for themselves. He was secretly sneaking that flour out to feed poor people. Anyway, that's my ancestors' history. Now, when it comes to current events today, my strong recommendation is let's not go to war. It's not worth it. Let's choose peace. Let's build up our families. Let's build up each other. Condemn the violence, obviously, it's wrong. But realize that we're on the winning side. It's not up to us when events happen, but we can choose to be friendly and kind to other people. And that's what we're going to do. That's who we are. That's what we've done throughout the past. So Anyway, guys, I hope this message makes a little bit of sense. I hope that you follow this man's example. I hope that we don't start like murdering each other in the streets like we did during the Civil War. That is no bueno, as they say in Spanish. It's not good. So don't do that. Guys, have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.